Oh, right, so here we go. 180! Right, hi lads and lasses, and welcome to Darts Coaching with Dynamite Dave. What we're going to talk about today is the fact that, to be honest with you, and you lot know this as well as I do, I haven't made any proper videos for a while. So that's what I'm going to do, is we're going to go back now and we're going to start at the basics and we're going to work our way up and we're going to go through practice routines and what have you, and we're going to make the new video slightly different from the old ones. Hopefully a little bit more entertaining than they have been of recent, back to the old way of doing things. So what I'm going to do is, rather than cutting out all the bits where I go off at a tangent, because I know a load of you love it, what I'll do is I'll just leave those bits in. So when I go off talking about something, what I've been doing recently since I've learned how to do the editing and what have you, is I've been cutting a lot of that out. Why, I have no idea, because I know a lot of you like it, some of you don't, you want stuff that's concise and to the point. And what we'll try and do is we'll try and make mixed up videos, so basically some that are precise and to the point, some of them, which is another thing that I'm going to start doing, is I'm going to start doing films probably more for the ardent fans of the channel rather than people who are actually learning or wanting to learn how to play darts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some like fly on the wall stuff. I recorded some the other day and it was quite good. Basically what it is it's me just having a bit of a chuck and talking to the camera, just having a bit of a wax lyrical and stuff like that, and it seems to have turned out pretty well. But those videos will be coming up later on in the month. So what we're going to start off with today is we're going to start off with a little bit of a chat, a little bit of an introduction, because I think the last time I did a video like this must be 3 months ago, maybe more than that. It might be a lot longer than that ago, and obviously we've got probably a few hundred more subscribers now that have never seen the old videos and have never actually seen Dynamite Dave the way that he actually thinks and what have you, and just having a bit of a chat and the basis behind where I started, what actually happened and the way that we move forward. So where we start is right back at the beginning. So this first video, what we're going to do is we're going to start right back at the beginning and we're going to talk about how the Dynamite Dave story started, how it all came about, and then just move on through, and we'll move on through to the point where we'll get to explaining the stance, explaining the address, explaining the throw, the reason why I believe it works. And this again is for the idiots on Twitter and some of the other idiots that are about. You can believe whatever you want, but the way that I see things is I see things from an engineering point of view. And there's a few inalienable facts that are facts and they can never be changed. You throw a dart in a certain manner and carry on throwing that dart in that same manner, you will never improve. That is an absolute fact. If you are improving, then that means that you're changing things, and you're changing things for the better. Obviously are, because you're improving. It just makes sense, it's common sense. In the words of Thingy, probably one of my favourite lasses on telly, and I don't watch much telly to be honest with you, and I probably only watch her about once a month, is Judge Judy. And the thing that she comes out with time and time again, and if you've ever watched Judge Judy, you'll see how she picks them apart, and she knocks holes out of the cases because they say things and then they contradict themselves and then they change something. And like she says, and this is absolutely fantastic this, and it just rings so true with me and so true with so many people, is if somebody says something to you, if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. So basically, if somebody's saying to you that you can't change, you're throwing darts and you can't change without it damaging you, you can't change without it affecting your darts negatively, that is the biggest load of horse crap I've ever heard in my life. And you know me, I never swear on my channel, very rarely, apart from when I leave the outtake bits in. But this is, for me, is the biggest load of poo I've ever heard in my life. You can't change, you have to throw darts the way that's comfortable. And as I've said if I've said it in one video, I've said it in 1,000. Everything that I do is subjective. Please, if you think what I'm doing to you, I'm coaching to you, is damaging you, please go somewhere else. Don't watch my videos, don't follow my channel. Because if you're that shallow and that weak that you watching my videos and trying to do something that I've suggested might be a good way of throwing darts is damaging you mentally or physically, just don't think it, don't bother. You've got an off switch, so if you've got an off switch on this, you never have to watch me again. Nobody's forcing you. So for everybody who likes the videos, if you think they're entertaining and what have you, you don't have to take anything that I say on board. You can just sit there and laugh, like some people do. They think I'm a joke. Then that's fine. They can laugh as much as they want. But there's a lot of people, and I'm not talking 1, 10 or 100. I'm talking now thousands of people that have told me publicly. All you've got to do is look through the YouTube videos and you look at the rate of thumbs up to thumbs down that I get, and it's just absolutely epic compared to any other channel. You go and look on one of the other darts channels and look how many thumbs down they get compared to thumbs up. You look at my videos, how many thumbs down to thumbs up, how many positive comments there are on mine compared to negative ones. And the negative ones are like probably 0.01%, whereas on a lot of other videos you might have 15 or 20% of them that are negative. So what I'm saying must have some gravity to it, and it must have some truth and honesty, some factual base in it, because to me it's an absolute fact as an engineer. The less complicated you make something, the more reliable it's going to be, especially if it's coming from something that is a human body and not actually pieces of metal screwed together. If you've got pieces of metal screwed together, you're going to get the ultimate of accuracy, for the simple reason is there's no flexibility in it. The human body has flexibility in it, so even though you set up in the Dynamite Dave way, even if you follow everything that I do, a lot of the time when I actually come to do face-to-face with you, which is a lot of people now, when I do face-to-face coaching with them, they've got something slightly wrong. And it's only a slight, it can just be the fact that they're still blocking the vision. It can be a fact that they're still coming from in front of the face, even though they feel that they're coming from the side, because they've turned the face like this, so they're coming from the side, but it's not really, it's still the front of the face. That can still mean that you've got a short stabby throw and you've not got that really nice long delivery. The longer your delivery is, the more time you've got to get it going in a straight line. That's why you see me hitch my darts, which is what I call the hitch. And what that's for, it's like preloading the arm to get it going in a straight line. If you just come up and go straight out, any inaccuracy in that, you've got one swing. You've got one from here to here where you release the dart to correct that before you let go of it. If you bring your arm back here, you're going from a set position. Whereas if you're coming up and you're going, and I've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, people coming up and every time they pull their arm back to send it forward, it's in a different place. It's in a different position. The amount of players that I've seen, and again, to me it's common sense. To you it might not be, but to me it's common sense. If you've got an oculine on the floor, it's, to me, absolutely imperative that you stood in the same place every time you throw the darts. Because if you're not, if like say you've got an ocky and you've got an oculine and you stand 2 inches behind it, if you get a piece of string, right, and do what I do, measure from your bullseye to the front of your oculine, right, and then stand 2 inches behind them and put a mark on the floor. Put where you would normally have your oculine on that line where you've decided to stand 2 inches behind the ocky, and then bring your line up towards the bullseye on the board and then drop it down until the point touches the board, and you will then be absolutely gobsmacked at how much lower that thing of that bullseye would have to be for you to throw in the throw on the same trajectory for the dart to hit the same point on the board. It's staggering, and I've done this with loads and loads of candidates that have been, loads and loads of players that have been up to see me over the years, not just now but over the years. Don't forget I've been doing this 5 years now, and the amount of dart players when they set up at the hockey in the studio or wherever I've been coaching, it used to be in the man shed, now it's in the studio, when they set themselves up and I've gone, whoa, hang on, don't throw. Oh, why? And so what I do is I have this little marker, and what I do is I put it on the floor, and then I get my string out where I normally have my bullseye to me hockey, and what I do is I put the hockey mark where their toe is, or where the sticker is, make them stand back, put the thing on the actual sticker and say, I walk over to the board and offer it up to the bullseye. Drop it down and it can be an inch low. So therefore, where they're throwing from, they're throwing for the treble 20. One throw, they're throwing for it and it's in the right place. The next time they're throwing for it, it's actually physically 1/4 of an inch down from where it was the first time they threw. If you move over to the left hand side of the dartboard and throw, and you're still throwing for the treble 20, you have to forgive me, I've got a bit of a cough coming on, but not a COVID cough, don't worry. It's just a frog in the old throat, that's all. Same when you move to the side. Believe it or not, if you get your string, which I've given loads of people, I've sent loads and loads of them out. If you get your string and put it into the centre of the bullseye with the point of your dart, as I've shown you loads of times, bring your mark over to your hockey, put it down on the front line of your hockey, and then just swing the string out without putting any more tension on it. Just swing the string out and you'll see that it makes a very shallow half moon. So by rights, when you move over to the end of the hockey, you're actually throwing from further away from the board than you are when you stood in the middle. So if without thinking about it, you stand on the 2 or 3 inches to the left, you're actually again dropping your treble 20 down by maybe 1/4 of an inch. So you've got half of the treble 20 where under natural circumstances the dart would go into the treble 20 and half of it where it won't. And I think you'll find if you test it out, it's absolutely true. And you'll find that by rights your hockey should be about in between 3/4 of an inch and an inch further towards the board than where you're actually standing, because the hockey is a straight line. So that straight line on the outside peripheries of it put you further away from the board. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go over into the studio and I'm going to show you how to set your board up properly. So dead simple stuff to start off with in this first video. So what we're going to do now is go up and show you how to make that piece of string that you can take everywhere with you. And it's probably one of the best pieces of equipment that I've got, and I'll show you when I'm up there why. Right, so let's go on up there right now. Right, so lads and lasses, to make your very own hockey tester, so you can test that your board's at the right height and you can also test that you're the right distance away from it, is what you're going to need is a dart. Right, so the next thing you're going to need is a tape measure. Right, so you can measure the actual distances out, which I'll give you during the video, and a piece of household string. Has to be obviously a decent amount of girth, so you can't stretch it too easily. The best thing you can make this out of, and I think I've said this on quite a few videos before, is fishing braid. Not nylon, not monofilament, the actual braid, the stuff that you use for carping, and I think they use it for pike fishing and all sort of barbel fishing and all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't stretch. So braid is the best stuff you can make this out of. But I like household string. People say, oh, you can overstretch it and that, but it's just a feel. So first of all, what we have to do is just get your string, wind yourself quite a bit out, make sure you've got a good 12 or 14 feet to start off with. So basically just wind it out, make sure that you've got loads and loads. And then what I tend to do is, the other piece of equipment you'll need is a pair of skizzers. Right, so if you pull that, wind that off, you can just have a bit of a basic measure there, so as you know that it's just hanging down enough, and just cut it off. There we go. So what we do now, dead simple, is we tie a loop in it. So it slips in easy, but it doesn't like change, if you know what I mean. So, right, so what I'm doing here is I'm just making a slip knot, and what I'm going to do is, just to show you, I'm going to make it dead big. Right, so dead big, dead easy slip knot. All it is over, round and in, which is your usual slip knot. Basically what you do is you make a piece on the loop like that and feed the big end through it that you're going to use, and then that means that you can pull that and tighten it down to it. So you've got a nice big loop in there. Get your jam tart, your dart, put the point through it, and then slide the knot up to the point. Slide this up to the point so you've got a nice little hole in it like that. You can use the dart to do that. You can pull it down like that so you've just got a nice loop so it won't come over the dart. Then what I suggest you do with this, if you've got some, is put a blob of super glue on it. Blob of super glue and then cut the excess off. Simple as that. So now, how we get to do the measuring. What we do now is we'll go to the other camera, which is pointing at the floor. So this is how we do the measuring. Right, so now as you can see, what I've done is I've laid the tape out on the floor. So the tape measure is laid out on the floor, and his first measurement is 5 feet 8 inches. So 5 feet 8 inches. And all we do is put a little bit of tension on the tape, and as you can see, 5 feet 8 inches is right where that red mark is. So what we do is let that off again, and now what we need to do is we need to go to 115.5 inches. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the 115.5 inches, which is the distance between the bullseye and the front of the hockey, where your toe touches it. Right, so we put the tape measure out there, and we go to 115.5, which is, let's get that nice there, so there we go. We've got the right amount of tension on it. So there we go, we do 115.5. So those are your two marks, and what you can do now when you pick the string up, you're ready to go. What I would do is always make sure you leave a bit of a tail on it, so it's something to put in your hand, so you can put it in, put your thumb on it, so the actual mark is at the end of your thumb, and you can just bring your thumb down, right amount of tension on it, and then you can see where the actual hockey should be. The great thing about this, now we've made it, is if you go to a different venue and their hockey is slightly out when you've tested it, so when you measure the board, if their hockey is a little bit too close to the board, you can then just discreetly put a little mark on the floor or a little sticker or something like that. If you don't say it out to nobody, they probably wouldn't even notice. And then you can actually throw from that line. So then you know for a fact you're throwing from the right distance. And it will also tell you whether the board is incorrect because you've got your 5'8". So the first thing you do, and this is how we measure it. I'll show you how we measure it now. Right, so here's how we use our new measurer. Dead simple. As we've said, you put the end of the dart through the loop, and what you do is put it bang in the middle of the bullseye, which is there. Right, don't forget, we're always measuring from the face of the board straight downwards. Right, so all we do is take the string, put a little bit of tension on it with your fingers, pull it down. When we get to here, as we can see, what we do here is we don't measure to the skirting board because obviously it's away from the wall. We want to be the distance of the board. So if I go to here and I go just above the skirting board, so if I come just above the skirting board, pull that round like that till it's just in front of my knuckle, down to the floor, yes, and that is absolutely bang on. Right, second stage is we leave that exactly where it is, so we know the board is now at 5'8". And now what we're doing is we're going to do the second measurement, which is your 115.5 inches. You slide his finger down till we get to the red section again. So I mean, you can do these in two different colours if you want, and then all we do is put a little bit of tension on so the string is nice and straight, but you're not pulling on it, and then all you do is swing it down, and there we go, absolute perfection. There she is, right on the face of the hockey. And that's just how simple it is to use the Dynamite Dave's bit of string. Now what I do with this is I keep this in my darts case, and I've got quite a big darts case, so I just run this round my fingers and keep it in the darts case. I've got one that I've made up, I've had it for years, and I've just made this one for you, just to show you how easy it is to actually make it. But I've had one that I've had for years, and if I go to a pub and the dart board's out, what I'll do is have a word with the landlord, have a word with whoever's, if it's a bit of a darts tournament and what have you, I'll have a word with whoever's organising it and say to them, at some point in the future, can you get the dart board put up properly? If not, I'll do it for you. I always volunteer to do that, obviously providing that where I'm going isn't hundreds of miles away from where I live. But if it's in the local vicinity, what I'll do is I'll just nip down one day when the pub's nice and quiet, whip the board off the wall, put it in the right place. No problem at all. Right, so that's how to use your piece of string. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. That's the end of it. Don't forget, you'll only ever get out of this game what you're prepared to put in, and I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a foyer back to the old school. Like I say, this is the first one in a few in this series, so what we're going to do is go back to basics and we're going to go through all the little bits and bobs step by step. So if you're new to the channel, this should be fresh and exciting for you. If you've been here before, hopefully this will be a little bit of different information, a little bit of new information that you'll find interesting and entertaining. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, lads and lasses, as I always say, you will only ever get out of this game what you're prepared to put in. And always, 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 totally okay!